In a faraway kingdom nestled between the Silvertop Mountains and Emerald Forests, there lived a poor man named Elian. He was a humble woodcutter, known throughout the nearby village of Thornabrook for his honesty and kindness. Though he owned little more than a tattered cloak on his back and the small axe he used to cut firewood, Elian had no family, no legacy, and no dreams beyond surviving another winter. Yet, the stars had a different fate written for him. Decades ago, during the reign of King Alaric the Wise, a legendary treasure known as the Heart of Silice, a ruby said contained the fire of the sun, was stolen from the royal vaults. It was more than just a gem. It was believed to bless the kingdom with prosperity and protection. Since its disappearance, a shadow had fallen over the land. Crops failed, wars broke out, and the once thriving kingdom had grown weary and weak. Many believed the treasure to be cursed. Others said it had simply been lost to time. Countless men had died searching for it. The king had grown old and heartbroken, and his only daughter, Princess Seraphina, had turned down every suitor. She swore she would only marry a man who could return the Heart of Silice and restore her kingdom's light. One foggy morning, Elian wandered deeper into the forest than ever before. He had heard tales of an abandoned mine where bandits once hid during the Great War. Driven more by hunger than curiosity, he ventured in. The air was cold and damp, and every step echoed like a warning. Deeper and deeper he went until he stumbled upon a collapsed chamber. There, half buried in a pile of rubble and moss, he saw it, a gleam of red, brighter than any flame he had ever seen. His heart pounded as he dug it free. It was the Heart of Silice, wrapped in an old royal cloth bearing the crest of the kingdom. It was unmistakable. He had found the stolen treasure, hidden all these years in the shadows of the forest. But before he could leave, a ghostly voice whispered, "Only one with a pure heart may return what was lost." Unfazed and driven by a sense of purpose, Elian clutched the gem and made his way back to the village. Word of the woodcutter, who found the legendary gem, spread like wildfire. In disbelief, the guards escorted Elian to the palace. The court was skeptical. The nobles scoffed at his ragged clothes. But when the king held the ruby, it glowed with a warm light that filled the throne room. It was real. King Alaric wept openly. "You have brought hope back to a dying kingdom," he said, his voice trembling. "Tell me, boy, what reward do you ask?" Elian bowed humbly. "I ask only that this treasure serve its true purpose, your majesty." The court gasped at his humility. The king smiled. "Then you are the kind of man this kingdom needs." He turned to the court and proclaimed, "By ancient law, he who returns a heart shall be named heir to the throne." Though many were shocked, none could deny Elian's courage and virtue. Princess Seraphina, who had long guarded her heart, saw in Elian not only a hero, but a man who had never let the world's cruelty make him cruel. They spent time walking in the palace gardens, discussing philosophy, history, and dreams for the kingdom. Soon love blossomed. Their wedding was held under the glow of the same ruby that once cursed the land. As they exchanged vows, the skies cleared and a golden light shone over the kingdom for the first time in years. The people cheered for Queen Seraphina and King Elian, the woodcutter turned heir. Under their rule, the land flourished again. Elian used his humble past to guide just and fair reforms. He opened schools, protected the forests he once worked in, and built shelters for the poor. And every year, on the day he found the treasure, the kingdom celebrated the Day of Destiny, honoring the man who proved that nobility lives not in birthright, but in the choices we make. As legend now tells it, Elian didn't just return a jewel, he returned hope. And in doing so, he found love, honor, and a crown. Though King Elian and Queen Seraphina brought light back to the land, peace was never guaranteed. Restoring a kingdom was more than a fairy tale ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter filled with trials far more complex than treasure hunts and royal weddings. The nobles, many of whom had vied for the throne themselves or arranged political marriages with the princess, looked upon Elian with disdain. Some whispered he was a peasant in a crown. Others believed he bewitched the ruby, or worse, that he had stolen it himself and orchestrated a return for power. Elian, though now wearing royal robes, remained humble and simple in his ways. He refused unnecessary luxury. He walked the castle halls without a guard, visited the sick, and broke bread with farmers. To the people, he was beloved. To the court, he was a threat to the old ways. This division simmered like a pot ready to boil. One moonless night, while Seraphina lay asleep, Elian sat alone in the royal archives, poring over ancient scrolls. The ruby had started glowing again, brighter, almost pulsing like a heartbeat. It made his hands warm when he touched it. He feared the gem's power had not yet revealed its full nature. In a forgotten scroll hidden beneath others, he read, "The heart of Solis is not merely treasure but trial. It seeks a worthy soul to awaken its twin, the eye of Noctis, a stone of shadow. Only when both are found in balance shall the kingdom's fate be truly secured." Elian realized the treasure he found was only half of the story. Somewhere out there, in the forgotten corners of the world, a dark counterpart lay waiting. And if he did not find it, someone else might, someone with darkness in their heart. Unbeknownst to Elian, one of the nobles, Lord Varric, Duke of Avelorn, had caught wind of the ruby's true nature. A former general with ambition burning like wildfire, Varric believed he could wield the Eye of Noctis and rule not just a kingdom, but all the lands beyond. He began gathering secret allies, old knights loyal to the previous regime, foreign spies, and mercenaries. Varric spread rumors in the outer provinces that Elian's return of the ruby was a hoax, that the princess had been enchanted, that the Real king had been replaced. Trouble brewed, and soon reports of rebellion reached the throne. Elian made a fateful decision. Against his council's advice, and to Seraphina's dismay, he would leave the palace and seek out the Eye of Noctis himself. He believed only by uniting the two artifacts could peace be maintained, and Varric's lies be silenced. Seraphina, ever brave and wise, refused to let him go alone. Disguised as travelers, the two left the castle under cover of night with only a small band of trusted companions. Sir Garin, Elian's old friend and now captain of the royal guard. Mira, a former thief turned palace scout. And Arinder, an old scholar who had studied the Solis legend for years. They journeyed through treacherous mountains, faced trials set by ancient guardians, and uncovered ruins of civilizations long buried. The journey tested their love, their strength, and their belief in each other. In the dark catacombs beneath the weeping wastes, Elian finally found it. A jet-black gem, cold to the touch, resting in the hands of a stone statue shaped like a fallen angel. As he lifted the Eye of Noctis, shadows swirled around them, but the heart of Solis in his pocket began to glow. The two stones pulsed in tandem, as if recognizing each other. But before Elian could return home, Lord Varric struck. As Elian and Seraphina returned to the borders of the kingdom, they found the capital under siege. Varric had staged a coup in their absence. The castle was taken. Loyalists were imprisoned or executed. The people lived in fear. But the people also remembered. Elian did not raise an army. He raised a nation. Farmers, woodsmen, scholars, and former knights rose with him. The common folk, who once had no voice, now had a king who was one of them. The final battle, called the War of Light and Shadow, lasted 3 days and nights. Elian and Seraphina led the charge with the twin stones in hand. In the throne room, Elian faced Varric, who had tried to fuse himself with the power of the Eye, but his greed twisted the gem's power. He became a shadow beast, monstrous and raging. Elian held both stones, pressed them together, and in a blinding flash, the gems merged, vanishing into a new form, a golden orb, symbolizing balance. Varric was vanquished, the curse ended, and the castle restored. Years passed. Under King Elian and Queen Seraphina, the kingdom grew into a beacon of equality and strength. Nobles and commoners served together. Schools and hospitals were built in every village. The story of the woodcutter who became king became legend. But Elian never let anyone forget the truth. That courage and kindness, not birth, make a ruler worthy. The heart and the eye, now one, were sealed deep beneath the palace, guarded by wisdom, not weapons. When Elian and Seraphina had children of their own, they taught them not just the duties of royalty, but the struggles of the people. They ruled not above the people, but with them, and so the poor man who once had nothing gave the world everything. In the palace gardens, just beyond the rose-covered archways, there stood an old oak tree. It had been there long before Elian found the treasure, before he wore a crown or walked marble halls. As a young man, he had often rested there after cutting wood nearby, dreaming of nothing more than a full stomach and warm fire. Years later, he had the tree preserved and protected. Under its shade, he and Seraphina often read together or sat in quiet reflection with their children. One morning, now with silver streaking his hair, King Elian carved something into the tree's bark, a simple phrase. A crown means nothing if it cannot bow. He turned to his youngest son, who was watching him curiously. "Do you know why I wrote that?" he asked. The boy shook his head. Elian smiled gently. "Because a king must remember where he came from and who he serves." That tree became a sacred place in the kingdom, not because it was magical, but because that's where a poor man once dreamed and then chose, even with power in his hands, to never forget the ground beneath his feet. And so, long after Elian and Seraphina passed into legend, travelers from every land came to sit under the old oak tree in the palace gardens. They came not to honor a king, but to remember that even the humblest soul can change the world.